Alright guys, this is a unboxing video of the QuickTrick Xtreme caster camber alignment tools. I decided that we're going to give this a shot, so hopefully we don't have to take the car to the shop every time we want to adjust the alignment. I've tried a few of these in the past, not really been very happy with the results, but this one seems to get pretty good reviews and some other guys are using them. So, got the instruction manual set off to the side. They come very well wrapped. Also should mention that the shipping was extremely fast. I actually talked to the customer service before ordering. They answered a few questions, and so far so good. Set this one off to the side. Looks like we've got the pins that are going to go in the tires with the little protector cap so we don't scratch the rims. A little Allen tool to, I'm guessing, tighten everything up. I should mention too, this is their actual, their newest version, and they've redesigned it some from some of the previous ones if you guys have any. But you've got a nice little QuickTrick logo tape measure. That's what we use to measure the toe. These out. Some of the other kits that they have, the DIY kit doesn't come assembled, but it looks like this is pretty much ready to go right out of the box. So very well built. There's no play. Very sturdy. This little QuickTrick logo. And this one off to the side. And the only thing left is the two. This version actually comes with two different. You know, basically they're fancy levels that we're going to use and zero out based on the floor here in a second. So we got on the GT350, and yeah, so we'll take these out. Remove the box. I don't think there's anything in here. Just paper. That's it. Put that over to the side. Over there. These out. Instruction manual. Should mention it is very cold here in Ohio, so we're working out in the garage kind of late. The propane heater, so we can get some stuff done. And there we go. So really easy with this. Make sure not to scratch if that's something you don't want to cut into the paint. And things are actually painted very well, extremely high quality it seems. I like that they're all assembled one piece. We'll be just putting the dowel pins on and hook it up to the car. And the plan is to start with, before we make any adjustments, I want to get a baseline as to where this thing is saying we are factory. I'm also contemplating possibly taking it to a shop to see and compare between what we have, what these things are saying, compared to what an actual professional shop. We have a local Firestone that's pretty close. Always do a pretty good job with all my other cars, but again, things, they're kind of expensive, but really when I added up the total cost, if they will work, about 3 alignments, and they pay for themselves at the normal kind of rate at your local Firestone, which most are for a single alignment are right around 100 to 120, at least that I found here in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm going to peel off the tape off of the digital levels. All right, I'm going to pop open the instructions real quick and just see what that's all about. So, looks like they got the new version, the kind of beta history with these, which again, these are the QuickTrick Xtreme version. I know they do have a handful of other versions, and that's actually where I reached out to customer service first, let them know my intent, and they actually didn't see these at first, so on their site. And they kind of pointed me in this direction to their new design, which just from looking at the YouTube videos that I've watched so far, these things are definitely seem way better than some of their other versions. So ready to assemble. We're going to attach the bottom pins to the base angle, 7/16 wrench to loosen the nuts, adjust the pins, blah blah blah. Second pin attachment. We got some knobs. So basically, we're going to take these dowel pins and attach them to the base of these guys. So let's see. Top pins. I'm just kind of speeding through the directions here to see if there's anything I'm missing. All looks good. All right, so it shouldn't be too bad. These out, and for this one you're going to notice, let me bring this up here a little closer, it's kind of a sharp edge. You know, if you don't really, you know, depending on the type of wheels and stuff you have, that's probably okay, but they do include, you know, these nice little rubber caps that we can put on so we don't mark up the rims, which we're definitely doing. So let's go ahead and put all of these on real quick. Once we get them on, we don't have to mess with it. Going on kind of hard, which is probably good, so they don't fall off. But it's also pretty cold here, so the rubber is not wanting to flex too much. Should mention too, this is kind of the first video I've done where I'm actually talking, and I'm going to walk you through trying these things out. I have a handful of other things that we're going to do to the GT350, and we're back. Well, looks like the GoPro battery's okay. But yeah, so we have, there's a handful of things. My first event is April 21st at Putnam Park Road Course, about 30 minutes west of Indianapolis. I ran there multiple times over the last 5 years. My previous car, which was a 2000 GT built engine, Kenny Bell, all that good stuff. But know the track really well, although I have not run it since it's been recently repaved over the last few years. A lot of the guys I talked to say it makes a huge difference on tire wear, so I'm kind of excited to see how that goes. So it looks like, unless I'm missing, oh, there it is. So yeah, I was missing one rubber piece. Put this guy in there, and then we've got all those in place. We're ready to attach them to the arms, but yeah, we're going to run there on April 21st, so we got a handful of things I want to get done to the car before then. The biggest thing is, I really wanted to nail down the alignment. I kind of know where I want to be setting-wise, and again, didn't want to have to take it to the shop each time. So, all right, I think we're good there, good there. Let's see if we can get these guys attached. Oops. Just kind of the assembled set. Notice these gauges have a on-off. And yeah, they don't have batteries. I forgot to take the stuff out. Let's see. There's a little battery door on the back. It's really small. We'll get a small flat. Put it in there. Yep, forgot to pull the tabs. My fault. Just remember, you got to do that. I think I even saw this on one of their other versions and totally forgot. So, much you can see this, but you got on and off. Press it once to do on. Just see what's laying here. Saying right now. So then you can do all 0. So we're zeroed out. Just stop moving it. That'd be key. Okay, we're zeroed out. And you'll notice if we go this way, go into the positive camber. We go this way, we're going to be in the negative. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little down up arrow on the gauge to indicate positive and negative. So, all right, guys, back real quick. I went through the instructions for the digital level. It actually comes calibrated from the factory, so you don't need to calibrate. The one thing I did know is why it was not beeping originally is if you hold the 0 button, which is the middle one, it basically turns off the beep or turns on if it's already off. So if you want it to beep, and it's not whenever it's zeroing out, you can hold it and it'll turn beeping off, which is good. Also, the QuickTrick instructions do mention that you need to zero it out, centering it on the front of the tire, which again, the first go around I was not doing. Highly recommend reading through all of their directions thoroughly. So the other thing that I found is in the directions it says, as you'll see when if you look back at the beginning, when I was putting the aluminum, I don't know what you call these pins, onto all the points, it says you can leave the nuts on or you can take them off. Either way, if you take them off, like say up top, you got to take them off on the bottom. So just when I was taking everything apart, it seemed that some of them were loose, and if they're a little bit loose, that could also cause, again, we're talking about tense, so it can cause things to be off, and if 2 of them are off, it would just compound. So I decided to take all the nuts off. I put everything in, with the exception of the bottom ones, these top ones that are the Allen. Once I got everything set up right, I took a pair of pliers, took the Allen, tightened these down. So, again, I'm only going to probably use them on this car, so it'll be completely fine. That way I know the top are equally tight. The bottom, you just adjust and tight. The interesting thing is when I did this, both sides, finished, both sides now, I don't know if you can see it on the video. Well, it's supposed to keep your setting even though once it turns off, but I'm on this side, I was on the other side. So here, just real quick, to show you kind of the procedure. I'm going to center that, press the button, repeat twice, pull it out, put it back on. We don't cross thread it. Make sure this thing is flush up against the bar. Tighten it down. Negative 0.6. I did it 3 times on this side, did it 3 times on the other side. Once I got the the nuts off, like what I just mentioned. Both sides are exactly the same. Negative 0.6 degrees camber in the rear. Again, I looked up the spec. I think it's negative 0.75 factory. But it's gonna be off. It's probably not gonna be exact. And the thing that I am most happy with is that now that I have a system, kind of a process for baselining, and I know the tool is right, both sides are exactly the same. So I know if it was put on a shop, at Ford or whatnot, on a shop, but from the factory, my guess is that the tool they were using, I'm just happy that it's the same on both sides, because I feel like that is a good indication that that things are going in the right direction. So another thing I'll mention is that, you know, why I wanted this kit is you not always have help me do this, so you do it all yourself. So I'm going to go run over to the other side, make sure they're in the grooves. Good. Really good. Tighten these up. Let that tension off basically. This off. I'm gonna hold this. Battery died, so I just had to go recharge it. But I got the toe measurements, and it's spot on, 0 toe, just like it's supposed to from the factory. It's 83 and a 16th, both, you know, the rear, if you will, and the front. You know, I'm actually really impressed with how easy this is to do. You know, at least again, I'm just getting a baseline. I'm not adjusting anything just yet, but you know how easy this is to do with just one person. Also, I've tried, you know, taking these off multiple times, zeroing them out in front of the tire, bringing it back, and they always come to a negative 0.6 degrees negative camber on both sides. I've tried it multiple times. It doesn't change. There's no deviation now that I've kind of got a system. You're going to see it kind of towards the end, but the biggest thing is not using the 7/16 nuts on the back. I think I can get it to be, you know, very repeatable. These things are solid, and I don't know. So far, I'm really happy. I'm going to stop for just a second. I'm going to move everything over to the front and get a baseline. The lighting, like I mentioned earlier, is terrible, and then in the front of the garage here until we get some more lights here, you know, maybe in the next month or so. But I'm going to move it over, get some baseline numbers, and then I'll be back, and I'm going to, you know, just kind of conclude the video with some quick tips. I've already mentioned a few of them, but yeah, I mean, so far it's you know, I'm actually really happy now that I've, you know, read through the manual. Highly recommend reading through that thoroughly. Guys, this kind of concludes the video. I wanted to summarize a few things. A few things I've found that's going to make this a lot easier when you get your kit. Like you'll see when I you know, when I started putting everything together, I put the you know, the kind of little pegs. I left the 7/16 nuts on there. You know, added them. I think. You know, you basically turn these things to kind of get everything adjusted the way you want, you know, torque them down. I think these being a little bit loose can throw things off. So what I would recommend is taking these off. It even says you can do this in the instruction manual for it all the way through it. Again, this is the first time. I've never used these before. Never actually even heard of the company before. A lot of Google searching. But anyways, I found them. Read through the manual. Take your time. I mean, I know it was a how-to video, but go through the manual. Save you some time. Hopefully this video does actually, but yeah, definitely take these off. Keep these though, because you might, in case you lose one with this centerpiece, it's the same one that fits on. I was actually just taking it, you know, apart to come and do the conclusion, and I took it a little too loose. And when I felt rolled out of the garage, I'm going to go get it. But still, yeah, in case you lose one, keep these. I highly recommend taking these things off. And these pins, you know, they do come, and I can see why they do it. They do come with these little rubber, you know, those little rubber caps. I feel like, you know, I tried them. They don't want to stay on the wheel very well, at least on the GT350. Maybe, you know, some other wheels, different styles that I just don't know about. It'd be just fine. But you know, for this car, if you're gonna use it on the GT350, highly recommend not using these. These are aluminum. And they're pretty flat. I didn't use any Scotch tape or tape, you know, when attaching them to the rim. So people say you can do that. Just, you know, if you are afraid you're gonna scratch anything or damage the wheel, definitely go ahead and do that if you're worried about it. Although I'm going to give you some of the numbers in a second, but I did go through all 4, you know, wheels and did not use these. Did not seem to scratch or do anything to it. Again, you're not really torquing on or wrenching it, and just be very careful when you're sliding them around, getting it vertically level, and you'll be just fine. The other thing I found is that you want to, I almost want to take like a bungee cord once these are actually on the wheel, and you'll see it from, previous in the video, when they're on the wheel, almost take a bungee strap around, all the way around the back of the wheel, around the front, to really put some pressure and hold these to the wheel. One of the things I found is the numbers are actually spot on with pretty much the factory spec. That, I would say they're spot on. But in order to do that, I noticed sometimes, these things don't always go in. You basically want this little round piece, and you'll see this if you get the kit. There's this little round, and then it's kind of got this little lip that has to be firmly pressed up against the wheel in order to get an accurate reading. That's why, what I ended up doing was pushing on both of these, or on this in order to, to get my measurements. Some of the time on some of the wheels it was just fine. Like it actually kind of, dug into the rubber and it was just fine. But in order to get I would say in order to be confident in your readings, I would make sure that you have a friend or somebody like holding this before you actually take your readings, or, do it yourself. But I'm thinking I'll get some sort of, bungee cords or something to go around, just so I don't have to, because again, this was just getting baseline readings. This wasn't jacking up the car, making adjustments, settling suspension once I bring it down, doing it again. But that's maybe one thing, and I don't know if they'd ever include it in their kit, but I'll probably end up doing, because I'm planning on using these quite a bit. Very happy with the numbers. Also, I'm definitely going to keep the plastic cases that the digital levels came in. So just for storage, keep them protected. The tape measures are really good quality. They have the QuickTrick logo on them. They're good. Didn't have any problems with them. They have plenty of feedback. The other thing that the manual did mention was, that's why I have a tire pressure gauge out, is to make sure you check your tire pressures, because if the pressures are low or not at kind of the factory spec, you get an accurate reading. It might be off. Honestly, I don't know. It might be off a little, might be a lot, but I did check the tire pressure for all the tires before recording the numbers, and they were all good. What else? Yeah, definitely keeping on your Allen wrench for torquing these, but once the top pieces are in, I don't think you're ever gonna mess with them. So let's go through some of the numbers. So for factory in the rear on a GT350, from everything I've seen online, the factory camber spec is a negative 0.75 degrees camber with a 0 toe. Using the QuickTrick system, came out with negative 0.6 on both sides. Again, the key to this is making sure it's in the directions, but it's not highlighted enough. Maybe they need to highlight it more, but if you're watching this, the key is you have to zero out the digital level in front of the tire, that you're doing the measurement with. When I did not, if I try to put it outside the wheel, I didn't actually try behind because the directions said in front. But if you do that, the readings are kind of all over the place, right? Because my garage is really, really not level in various places, and it really does matter. So pay attention. If you're going to do it, make sure that you zero it out in front of the tire. Now on the rear, I just centered it on the tire. I zeroed it out, waited for the 2 beeps, put it back on the thing. Again, I already made sure it was vertically level. 0.6, negative 0.6, negative camber in the rear, both sides, and I tried it 4 or 5 times just to make sure, spot on every time. So rear, especially when there's no toe in, if your factory or whatever you're trying to achieve is a 0 toe, whether it be front or rear, just on this one it was rear, what I'm talking about right now. But yeah, centering on the tire was just fine. One of the things I found with the front, when getting the numbers on the front, since factories around a negative 1 degree camber and it has some toe in, you'll see when if you look at the tire footprint, this car has 295s on the front, you'll see the footprint of the tire, and you're going to notice the outside is up a bit. One of the things I found is if you look at kind of the footprint of what is actually touching the concrete, and then center your digital level, with that. So on the front, it wasn't completely centered on the entire tire. Also, this one has 305s in the rear, so it's a little bigger tire on the rear. But on the front, I made sure to center the digital level basically with the footprint hole was actually touching the concrete, because that's what you need to do. So when I did that, everything was perfect every time. Again, it was repeatable. I tried it 3 times each side just to make sure there was no fluke. Got the exact same numbers each time. To summarize, for the front, so I wanted the rear. The rear was pretty close to factory. I mean, the factory says negative 0.75, and I got negative 0.6 on each side. Good enough. Figure that's the way it came from the factory. For the front, which this is really pretty cool. On the front, once I did everything I just mentioned, I got a negative 1.1 degrees camber on one side and a negative 1.0 on the other side. Again, tried back and forth. And the factory tolerance, or I shouldn't say tolerance, that's not correct. The factory spec, again, from what I've looked up online, is negative 1.05. So between both sides,